How you doing, guys? Welcome back to another video with InfoSec Pat. In today's video, what we're going to be talking about is NAT and PAT, Network Address Translation and Port Address Translation. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Hello guys, welcome back. So in this lab, like I said, we're going to be setting up and configuring NAT and PAT. So what is NAT? What is PAT? Am I Pat? Yes, I'm Pat, but we're not talking about that. But NAT is Network Address Translation, and PAT stands for Port Address Translation. So essentially NAT, what that does, you have your private IPs, right? Like in your house, your router might be 192.168.1.1 for an example, right? So when you go out to the internet, to Google, right, 8.8.8.8, right, like it is on the screen. So what is that doing in the router? How does the router know how to get from your 192.168.1.100, for example, if that's your PC IP, to 8.8.8.8? That's not locally attached to your network, right? That's not on your network. So it uses a technology or a service called NAT, right? So that's how it translates your private IP space to the public IPs, right? And likewise for PAT, so that is going to translate the port address translation, right? And that's just by setting overload. We're going to get into the configuration in a second, and I'm going to show you how to configure this. We're going to set this up. Everything is on the router, so we're focusing on setting up this on the router. So as you can see, let me just open up a few things. So as you can see, there's nothing set up yet on the router. We're going to be setting up this from scratch. And so, like I said in a previous video, if you can stop here and you can just use your packet tracer, or if you have physical gear, I would recommend doing a packet tracer and following along. So pause the video, right? And try to attempt this, right? Set up your little topology. And if you're asking me how am I getting these cool little icons, I actually downloaded them today from icons8.com. So you can just go put it in, for example, switch, and you can just go to switch, boom, download, and then server, same thing. I was just like tinkering with this today and I thought it was pretty cool. So this is very slow. But the way you actually change it, once you download it, you click on the device, go to physical, go to customize icon, browse to your downloads, and then wherever your icon is, like right, as you see I have the server, my router, my switch, etc. All right, so let's cancel that. So that's that. All right, so, and the rest of the topology, set up a DHCP server and a DNS server. If you don't know how, just put a comment in the description and I can help you do that. But in this video, we're strictly going to configure the router for NAT and PAT and testing all this configuration. Okay, so let's get started. No more talking, no more rambling, Patrick. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is configure terminal. I'm gonna do my host name to R1. Perfect. And then the next thing I'm gonna do is we're going to configure, let me actually just bring this over. Whoops, I don't want to do that, my bad. Let's go ahead and bring this over just a little bit. Boom. Messed up everything, but doesn't really matter about that. I know the ports. All right, cool. So the first things first, we're going to be configuring DHCP on gigabit 0/0/1. All right, so we're going to do interface gig 0/0/1. Now we're in that interface and we're going to do IP address, and if you do question mark, you can see DHCP, right? And then you do no shutdown. Whoops, I didn't mean to say that. So now you can see this is working. This little cloud is representing the internet, but it's just a switch, and I switched the icon just how I did, like I showed you with the router. So now it's going through spanning tree. Okay. So next thing we're going to do is configure 00, right? Because that's the inside. And this we're going to do IP address 10.1.1.254 with a 24-bit mask. Okay, no shutdown. Now we can bring that bad boy on. Same thing, it's going to do the same thing. So first things first, what we have to do in here is set up DHCP on the inside interface, right? Because DHCP is critical right now because these PCs, I was testing some stuff. If I do ipconfig renew, DHCP is going to fail, right? Because there's no DHCP server on there. If I do ipconfig, there's a PIPA, your PIPA address, right? So that means there's no DHCP server, it cannot find one. Cool. So what we're going to do is go back into our router, whoops, and we're going to be setting up DHCP, right? And I did a little video about that, but we're going to be setting it up again for the inside, right? So I'm going to do IP DHCP pool, and I want to put this as NAT-lab. Okay, cool. So now we're in there. The network we're going to do is 10.1.1.0 with a 24-bit mask. Okay, so that's the inside. Remember, that's for the inside of on the LAN side, not the WAN side. Okay, so now we're going to do default router. It's going to be itself. Oh, that one. Okay, and then the DNS server. Whoops. DNS server is going to be Google. Okay, perfect. Let's save that. All right, so let's end. Okay, now if we do show run, and we can see our DHCP pool, and let's go ahead and do show IP DHCP pool. We can see this. Okay, we see that there. Perfect. And as you can tell here, we're going to do something in a second. There's no exclusions, excuse me, and excluded addresses, there's 0, right? Pay attention to that because I'm going to be making a change in that in a second. So, but first thing we're going to do is from PC1, already in PC1, yeah. Whoops. Let me X out of here. PC0. All right. So remember, we just got an IP. Renew. Perfect. So now we can ping 10.1.1.254. Boom, because we're on this side of the network, right? We can ping that. But if we try to ping, for an example, anything on this side of the network, on the DHCP side, on the internet side, like 8.8.8.8, it's not going to ping because it doesn't know how to get out, translate out of the router. Okay, perfect. Let's go back into the router and we're going to add an exclusion. Okay, this is the best practice because right now we have the whole range for DHCP. And what if your router tries to give a DHCP address to itself? Or, you know, there can be some chaos. So you want to, you know, if you want to have web servers or any kind of servers, you want to have this outside your DHCP scope, right? So how would we do that? We're going to go to config terminal and do IP DHCP, excluded addresses, and we're going to exclude 200 to 10.1.1.254, right? Boom. Okay, perfect. Now that's that. Now, okay, so that's step. I have a few steps over here that we have to do. So we're going to do now, let's go ahead and let's go PC2. IP static. Make sure we can get an IP. Boom, we got an IP, so that's working. Okay, perfect. So now we're going to go ahead and configure some cool stuff now. Now I'm going to do the NAT stuff. So now we can go into interface. Let's go back into interface gig 0/0/1 IP NAT, and now 1 is the outside. I just have it written up here, and then 0 is the inside. So we're going to do IP NAT inside. Perfect. Let's save that. It's a habit. Okay, so let's exit out of here. Now this is where the fun comes in, and I'll explain this command in great detail to the best of my ability, right? So what we're going to do here is IP NAT, right? IP NAT. So IP, and then we're going to do network address translation, and then what are we going to translate from the inside, right? From our client machines, source, right? And then we're going to make a list, right? In this list, we're going to name it. We can put a name. We're going to put 50. I don't know. We can just name it whatever. And then the interface, right? We're going to be doing it from gigabit. Going to, sorry, /1. So, and let me just do a question mark, and then we'll do overload. I think I mentioned this in the beginning. So this is the full command. So what is this command doing? IP NAT from the inside of the network, the source. This is going to be the access list, the list that we're going to be setting up. It's going to be 50. The interface going out is gigabit 0/0/1, which is the outside WAN port, right? Cool. So now let's go ahead and do access list, question mark. And now what is the, we're going to do list 50, right? So we're going to do 50. And then we're going to permit any. And in the real world, you don't want to do this and permit everything. But in this little lab, it's perfectly fine, okay? And so that is that. Let's go ahead, and I think I just, yep. So now let's go ahead and go back to our PC. All right, so we have dhcp. Let's go on to X out of here, go into the command prompt. All right, before we weren't able to ping Google, right? Anything on the outside of that router. So now we can ping it. See that? So now we can try to ping Cisco ARP, and then it'll ping in a second. Hopefully, yeah. Got me scared for a second. So now we can ping that. So now what we can do is go onto the router, right? End it out of here. We can do a command show IP dhcp first. Well, I'll show you a few commands, binding, and we can see dhcp coming from the router going to our end devices, our NPCs. And the next one is pretty critical to seeing what is actually natting through our file, or in this case, our router. So we could do show IP NAT translations. And look at this. We can see everything that's natting. That's pretty neat, right? So now we only see DNS, ICMP because we're pinging. So now pay attention to this. Hopefully you're following along with your lab. And now let's go ahead and go back to PC 0, X out of here. Let's go to the web. Let's go to cisco.com. Now we got the cisco.com. We're able to hit this server. Let's see our router output now. Look at that. That's pretty neat, right? So now we can see DNS and HTTP, right? So if you don't know your ports, port 53 is DNS, port 80 is HTTP, 443 is HTTPS, SSL, right? So that is showing that from PC1, right? So if we go here, PC1 is right here. Now if we go to PC2, let's go ahead and see what's its IP. .3. So we don't see .3 in here yet, right? Let's go back here. We don't see .3, right? It's only .11111. Now if we go here, we can go ahead and just do a ping to 8.8.8.8. Bada bing, that's working. So we're going to see an ICMP. And now let's go ahead and go to cisco.com. Boom. Let's go to facebook.com. Boom, look at that. Pretty neat, huh? Now we're at facebook.com. Now let's do this. And now look at all these. Obviously you see a few from the other one because they're probably traversing and communicating. But so now you see 10113 going over port 80, 443, and this random number, that's pat, that's doing patting. So let's sum this up. Let's go ahead and PC1. I don't think I did much with PC1 yet. We're pinging Facebook, perfect. X out of here. Let's go ahead and X out of all the PCs so I don't get confused. I usually get confused. All right, so now we can see .2. Right, .2, ICMP, right? So now let's go ahead and go to .2 and then go to the web. Make sure he can get to cisco.com. He's able to resolve. And then facebook.com. Perfect. Now let's go back to the router. Now we should see that guy in here. Right there. Pretty neat, huh? And then we can see .2 up here for DNS. Boom. Okay. So, and then if we do show IP bindings, 1, 3, where's 2? Let's see, what is this IP? IP config, .2, okay. What I want to do is this real quick. Let's renew. Okay, now it's .4, okay. Ping Google. Perfect. Now let's go back to the router. This, now we got .4 here. And now we should see .4 here. Boom. The ping, because that's what we did, we just pinged. All right, so that concludes this video. And the last thing, obviously, on the router, I don't care about you now, is to save your work, right? Short way is WR, but you can do copy running config to start up config, and just hit enter, and that saves the config. So now you should know how to set up PAT, NAT, get it all configured on your router, and hopefully this video has been informative for you guys, and I enjoyed it, and thank you for checking me out. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends and family. Like I always say, growing this channel has been a blessing for me, and I'm enjoying it, and as much as hopefully you guys are enjoying it. So thank you so much, and if I don't hear from you, Happy New Year. Tomorrow is New Year's, and let's have a great 2020. God bless.